The red t-shirt was the moment that changed things for me. What I did, and this is something that I really advocate for now, is pupil shadowing. What creates that sense of belonging for them? And one of those aspects is, will I be missed? Keep the child at the centre of everything, because the child experiences one life. It's adults that have separate sections and services and gaps.
Good afternoon. A child is sitting, their pencil is still, their stomach is tight, and they're smiling just enough that nobody asks. The school says, we have mental health support. But support for who, how fast, and then what happens before the referral finally lands? I'm Yvonne. This is my kitchen. Today we're talking inclusivity with a touch of mental health support in education. We're looking at the promises, the waiting list, the children who are trying to survive when the system is not quite working for them. The village is curious. Pull up a chair. Let's talk. Let me bring in my guest. Before we talk about these big words like inclusive and inclusive education and child-centered learning, I'm really curious about what's going on in schools. And Dr. Angela, my guest today, is working within schools, and has been an educator for over 30 years. Is that right, Dr. Angela?
Yes, it seems like a very, very long time, actually, and yet a very short space at the same time. Because there's been that consistency across my journey, but my role within that has changed. So, and I've seen so many different aspects of how education happens. So not just within mainstream schools, but in specialist, within independent, and across all the different age ranges. So it's been a wonderful, and will hopefully continue to be a wonderful experience. But it's all fundamentally based on how I listen to and what I learn from other people, and the relationships that develop, which actually has a massive impact.
It does have a massive impact. Do you remember the days where you were, could I say, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, getting into education? What was that like?
Yeah. Retrospectively, it was very wet behind the ears. It was very theory driven in terms of when I came out of my teacher training, and it was very good, actually, very good grounding, my teacher education. It was a Bachelor of Education honours degree, where actually we did all the ologies, so the psychology, the sociology, the philosophy behind everything, and then looked at how does that work through our subject. And my subject was PE. And PE, actually, it's a bit of a Marmite subject, I'm aware of that, but it is one that is fundamentally structured on relationships, because you're not going to move a ball from one end of a court or a pitch to another unless you can work together as a team, that you can actually work on communication and miscommunication, that you can support people when it goes wrong, that you can celebrate when it goes right, that you can actually problem solve together. So that was a really good foundation. When you then come out into that big wide world as a 22-year-old, you've got sixth formers who are 18, and the school that I was actually working in was back in my mum's sort of home area, so it was over in Wales, and I was teaching cousins, I was teaching family. But I particularly felt at that time, with that lesser age gap between myself and those older pupils, that I needed to sort of have a bit of a position. That's looking back. Actually, as I really dealt with the world, as I was actually getting to know children, I realised that I had to loose that go a little bit, because it was too far from where they were. No teacher should ever be a child's best friend. You should have a position of authority, but it's that real sort of difference between authoritative and authoritarian. So you need to be approachable, you need to be firm, you need to be friendly, because actually for many young people, it is a relationship that you become a dependable, a reliable, a consistent adult within their life. And that's a lot of responsibility, which back then perhaps I wasn't so aware of. But as my career sort of manoeuvred like this, which I didn't expect it to, that viewpoint has grown and grown and grown. So I've found that the starting point was literally the starting point, and it became the opportunity to grow.
It was literally the starting point, and you were there, your head filled with all the ologies, and you were there, you were going to change the world through PE, and you were going to be the kids' best friend. You're not going to be doing it how mom and dad done it, and how all the teachers, that you're going to do it differently, because they're all going to feel like they're buddies in the room with them. Young teachers.
Yes, but no. So not that best friend thing. Because if I've got somebody at the top of a gym rope who's fallen down on the floor, I need a class to listen when I say stop and stop. Actually, if you say stop too quickly, then they all and stop, because they need to know that I have control. As in, I can keep them safe. So
does that come naturally? So for a young teacher getting started, I think one of the things that when I was teaching, I didn't appreciate, there's so many different versions of a student, right? You have different types of student, but you also have a different student every day. The student that you have on Monday called Johnny is not necessarily the Johnny that you have on Wednesday, or the Johnny you have after lunch sometimes, isn't it? So for you, was it enough that you had the ologies behind you, or did it start where I know I need to be that authority? Does it happen naturally, or can you remember an incident where you say to yourself, oh no, this needs to change, I need to be the authority in the room? How does one develop that as a teacher?
So I always went into it knowing that I have to have that authority, but not in sort of a dictatorial way. So it's just about establishing where those boundaries are. And everybody, children and even adults, like to know where boundaries are, so that they know where that flex might be. And I think the problem is when you have a boundary that is absolutely embedded, that causes the opportunity to head bash against. So when I think back to the conversations that happened at school at the time, which I found a little bit bizarre, and I still find quite bizarre. So children had school ties. I know we have since gone to sort of polo shirts kind of thing, this, whether we've gone to PE kits, whatever. But school ties seem to be a massive issue, because teachers were tasked with the duty of your tie's too long and thin, your tie's too short and fat. And actually, because of your tie length, that now means that you're not going to be an effective learner. So we need to really concentrate all our efforts on sorting out what your tie looks like, so that we can pop you into the classroom and you will look like a learner. Obviously, within PE, I didn't have that dilemma, because what I needed was ties off and PE tops on. But it just seemed such an unnecessary argument. Now, the basis that I can say that with validity now is when I moved into pupil referral unit and gypsy traveller education within the area that I'd been doing mainstream teaching. Quite a lot of our short fat ties and our long thin ties pupils arrived there, and that I actually had the opportunity to get to know them. So back in the day, we're talking probably about 25 years ago or whatever, part of what we did within that pupil referral unit environment was we actually went out to the children's homes, picked them up, popped them in our car. So we'd be driving along side by side to get them to the place where we were working that day, whether it be the local library, whether it be the actual resource base. And that side-to-side conversation that took place was really important, because it started the opportunity to start enabling them to strip away at the things that were problematic for them. So what they'd experienced the night before, whether they'd had breakfast, whether there'd been like a big party held at their place. So it gave us as tutors the opportunity to help start unpicking some of the things that were in their lives that were becoming barriers for them. that were
I'm hearing
becoming
some
important.
powerful words from this. The first thing I'm hearing is the side to side conversation. It's been proven, that if you can walk side to side with somebody, or if even in a room, if it's better to be on the somebody's side than to be in front, face to face, because it's quite threatening, to have the kind. So what I'm hearing is you learned quite earlier on to build a relationship. The first thing I had, and to have boundaries, and then the next way, how to have those consistent relationships. So that time in the car, because kids tend to find it very enjoyable to make it about the tie, and now I don't have to deal with the schoolwork because now we are dealing with the tie.
Yeah.
Can you remember a time when you were getting started and it was really challenging for you because you had a really wide group of students that you had to deal with? Can you remember who you were then, and like some incidences that helped you formulate the teacher as Angela?
Yeah, I think it was looking at children's behaviours and becoming curious about it, and having those conversations, not just with the child but also parents as well, and that's been a big feature again of my pathway, if you like. So you're understanding the child from different perspectives, from different viewpoints, different experiences, including their own. And what you have to do is take your own assumptions away. And I think it has to be the red t-shirt, okay? So the red t-shirt was the moment that changed things for me. Our PE kit was a red t-shirt and blue shorts. And a girl came into school the one time and with a note. She didn't have her red t-shirt because they hadn't done a red wash. And at the time I was like, oh, but it goes in the dark wash. You have to be more organised. You have to, prepare these things. You've got a timetable. When it all is.
Yeah.
Now that didn't mean to say that mum knew or dad knew. So the people at home, the adults, didn't necessarily know when the red t-shirt was required. They also didn't necessarily know when the red shirt had become particularly sweaty, or when it hadn't. And actually the way that they organised their washing, unlike the way I tend to organise my washing, because I just sling everything in and hope nothing runs, but they had a particular
red and
way of doing
white.
it. Oh yeah. And I like to run the gauntlet, you see. I like to run the gauntlet. But it actually made me stop, think, so this t-shirt could have been a real barrier for this child doing PE. And actually what's more important, that they do the PE or that they don't because they don't have a red t-shirt? So it actually made me think, well, maybe it's a bit daft. I don't know why we've had a red t-shirt for a PE uniform, because it's created a barrier that doesn't have to be there. But because I've never been a reds, whites, mixed colours kind of washer, I hadn't thought that it could be such a barrier. But it made me appreciate that other people have ways of doing things that is different from mine, but still gets the same results, a clean t-shirt. Does that?
Okay. Yeah. So for you, it made you realize at this point, or thinking around the uniform might not be marrying with the reality. It's creating a barrier.
Yeah.
Is that something that with time has helped form a lot of how you view a lot of things now in teaching? You kind of like ask yourself, what's the red t-shirt in this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good way of putting it, really. Yeah, where is our red t-shirt, and what's happening to it, and why is that happening? So yes, it's given me a great insight of the value of reflection, and actually of the dangers of assumption. And I think that's really crucial, because I've been in many situations as a professional in meetings with other professionals where there have been assumptions made, and those assumptions are very, very far from the truth. And when I talk about truth, we all have experiences that become our realities. So we all have our own truths, and sometimes those overlap, and sometimes they absolutely don't. But it's understanding that everybody's reality carries equal weighting, and that's where you have to look at that traditional balance of hierarchy and power and where that's held, and think about, well, actually, what is expertise and where does it lie, and how can we best use expertise? So I can never, and have never, been a teenage boy, but I can learn from what teenage boys tell me about their experiences, and I can try and understand their experiences from a number of different perspectives to then help work a way around through or under things, or disregard them. So, like mountains, we don't all have to go up a mountain, and if we are going to tackle a mountain, we don't have to necessarily take the one path or navigate our way around things just by ourselves. In fact, sometimes we don't even have to tackle a mountain. We can make a different choice.
Kind of having that discerning, your role then becomes even beyond just a PE teacher. Now, because you're learning more about yourself, what I'm hearing is you then, the more you develop those ologies within yourself, the more you're then becoming a better teacher. I remember when we used to do things like observations, they always say reflective practice. Are you able to reflect on your teaching, reflect on what's happened, and then know, how could I improve this for the better? How was it different 30 years ago to, when you look at education now? There's all these words. Then you had all the ologies, right? But now you have all these buzzwords. Things like special education needs have come quite to the forefront. Inclusion has come quite to the forefront. What's changed in education in all that time that you've been in education, in your opinion?
So, in some ways that's difficult to answer because I've not followed a straight pathway. In other ways, it's easier to answer because I've experienced more things. And the theme that goes through, whether it's me as that teacher, that practitioner, or whether it's working with schools, working with local authorities, working with parents, working with children, is that it has become more and more rigid and more tied and more under-resourced, and it hasn't loosed go of what do we actually need in the world outside of education. So we still hold on to this concept that what goes down on an exam paper determines what happens beyond that. And there's so much pressure that young people go through because they've got their GCSEs, they've got their A-levels. And, if they don't achieve those, then that's a massive difficulty in life. I did my doctorate when I was just before I was 50. I did a master's about 6 years before that. I did a second degree again before that. My learning did not stop when I finished my GCSEs or my A-levels or my original degree. And the fact that we are still very much reliant on this memory-based way of proving what we know in a world where we have, I've got 3 screens going on around here. I've got the world at my fingertips. And it would be more fundamental to learn how to use that effectively and to apply it to a situation than actually being able to give quite limited, defined, detailed information on, what it is or what I can remember it is. So I think we are still very much bound by a pretty Victorian way of thinking about what is success in education. And that has remained constant. But as a society, we have, outside of education, because that reflects what's happening inside education, we've got different legislation, and we've got different clinical sort of diagnoses or characteristics of conditions. We are finding more and more things out through science. So we've got a far more fluid world in which education still sits as quite a rigid, quite a secular world within its own entity. And in between that, you've then got the funding aspects, which actually become that constraint, that they quite quickly become we can't as a response.
So what I'm hearing is that the system has hardly changed. Different stakeholders might choose to disagree with that. They might say, but look, there's BTECs now, right? Not everybody has to do their GCSEs. They can do BTECs. They could say, we've introduced T-levels because we recognize that not all learners, must do A-levels. We've introduced apprenticeships. Is it the fact that these things exist and it's the way they're not being utilized? Is it a mental thing? What is the shift that needs to happen so that all learners feel included when they're setting their goals right at the beginning of learning, and the education to catch up with that as they're taking them through that journey?
I think we have had a shift in the growth of where BTEC started out and where we've had the other qualification routes put into place. There's potentially still that lag in how those qualifications are perceived as being academic or more vocational. Because actually, the world out there is about problem solving. And we can do that academically, and we can do it in a vocational way. So they carry equal levels, but it's how they are regarded. It's the structure around them. It's how they're being perceived, whether that be their use in terms of progressing down an academic route. And I'm well aware that universities, for example, accept, acknowledge and treat BTECs in the same manner that they would treat A-levels. I'm less certain about how employers see those things. And certainly, in terms of my doctorate, I did an educational doctorate rather than a PhD. So mine is far more practice-based. It's related to the real world and looking how theory would explain the real world rather than taking the theory and then putting it into place.
So what I'm hearing is not so much the things are not there. It's not so much the changes haven't been implemented. It's the nuances behind it. So, for example, if somebody did BTECs, they might not necessarily then be considered for Oxford or Cambridge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And therefore not. And in doing so, are there some children then who are very disadvantaged? Are there some harms? Is there a social economic cost, you could say, to how we're handling this? Or could you tell us a little bit about like your PhD and some of your work, your consultancy work, and why it's really important that people listen to you, because you have a lot of experience in this area.
Yeah. So what my educational doctorate enabled me to do was to actually look at a human experience, and that human experience was of a year 9 autistic child in a mainstream education setting. And what I did, and this is something that I really advocate for now, is pupil shadowing. So pupil shadowing is literally following that child around across the school day. Now, on an ethical reason, obviously, that's pretty much what happens when they arrive at school. Then we do some lessons. They get a bit of downtime in the break. They don't necessarily want an adult tagging along with them. Or you can do it the other way around and just look at what's happening at break and lunchtimes. And you're certainly not going off to the toilet with them and things like that. Now, what I found really insightful was I was actually in a school that I wasn't used to. And I didn't know what to expect. And actually, is that not the same for our children, particularly our neurodivergent children? So I followed, and his name is Joe, it's a pseudonym, so it's not his real name. So I followed Joe on 3 different occasions. After the first occasion, I didn't wear heels because it's those hidden things that happen that unless you sort of stand back and think, well, why is that happening, that you don't appreciate. So Joe ran between lessons. So when one lesson ended, he ran to another lesson. You can't do that in heels. But he did that because lesson number 1 finished at 10 o'clock. And that was on one side of the school. And lesson number 2 started at 11 o'clock. He doesn't have any time from what the timetable says to get from one side of the school to be on the other side of the school for the start of the next lesson on time. And he does know that when people aren't on time, then teachers don't like it. And then there's normally some kind of implication, some kind of consequence. So even though the rest of the class went running because they realised there's a bit of a 2 or 3 minute travelling time allowed, he ran. And nobody actually said to him, why? What they did say was, stop running. But then imagine that pressure, because now I'm going to be even later. So so when you're doing that, and it's a 6-lesson day, there's a lot of pressure building up, lots of anticipation, isn't there? And it's actually quite exhausting. And that's before you've even got into a point where you are in a lesson and you've got to take on like cognitive information. You've got to take on new knowledge and do stuff with it. So it was actually really tiring.
Yeah.
But what I also got to see was his journey across the school day. And I think it's incredibly powerful as an adult in education, following a child through what their day looks like, because it actually helps you to then step back and think, okay, what can we do? What can we do to help this young person have a less anxiety-evoking day? And you are in the perspective of the child, and we've got that saying, haven't we? Unless you've worn my shoes, you don't know what it's like to walk a mile. And that's a very sort of equality-based perspective, because we all need shoes, and it works best when we all have shoes that fit and are suited for our purpose. And that's, to me, again, is the heart of inclusion. It's looking at what adjustments do we need to put in place to ensure that each child has the pair of shoes that fits and works for them. So what do we need for Joe to enable him to actually experience the day in a less chaotic way for him? So we need to actually say, it is okay not to be at 11 o'clock here and at 11 o'clock there. You are allowed some time to be able to get from here to here. And this is that reasonable time.
That's a really great insight, because what I'm hearing from what you said is whoever had put together the timetable, and probably it was with the best intentions, hadn't quite realized the nuance of where one room being in another room, could do. And so having found that out, having lived, through the situation where the way things have been set up, you have to change from your preference, because I would imagine if you're wearing heels, that was your preference, to the preference that the school has put in place so that you can do whatever is required. And how is it then that changes the life for our children, that they have to change everything in order for them to exist in this world where they almost have no say?
Absolutely. And it's about what creates that sense of belonging for them. And one of those aspects is, will I be missed? And actually, that's really important for a child to know that they won't be missed. And part of feeding into that is, how is my voice? Is my voice heard?
When you say, will I be missed, what do we mean by that?
So if I wasn't here today,
Yeah.
who would notice? How much am I valued?
Yeah.
How much is my contribution valued? What is my contribution? How do I give my contribution? And how does that shape where I am, what I'm doing, how I'm experiencing things?
So what you're saying there is, you're actually part of a community, but in that community, you're seen as an individual.
Yes, very much so.
So if the school had, in this case, seen this child as an individual, they would have realized that this timetabling would affect this individual in this way. This is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Through that experience and run with that child, did something happen as a result of that?
I spoke to the school about it, and they hadn't realised, because they didn't have that overall picture. So things like teachers being out in the corridors between lessons. So what teachers tend to do is, that lesson's finished, I now need to get sorted out for the next lesson, because realistically I've got 2 or 3 minutes before the next class arrives. So I've got 2 or 3 minutes to have a refresh kind of thing, get everything I need, get my head into the right space. If you've got teachers out in the corridors, you can see the flow of children. You can see how they're moving, where they're moving, how quickly they're moving, all that kind of stuff. So then you notice, well, this child, Joe always runs past me. And actually it's then those conversations with other teachers or teaching assistants. Yes, I've noticed that as well. So what they hadn't done was look across the day. So for example, the maths teacher saw Joe running, told him not to run. The English teacher, same kind of thing. So we've got lots of events that have become disconnected or not. There's no system in place to connect them, for people to then say, hang on, we've got repetitive behaviours here, and what is underpinning this pattern that we've now got? But it's because the timetable is written.
So in this case, what you're saying, there wasn't that communication. So you say something like having student voice, having a conversation when people notice something's out the norm. How can schools make this a whole school approach? Are there certain things they can do? So when it comes to inclusive students who are not always very expressive, isn't it?
It's difficult because our societal structure is we have teachers and we have students, or we have pupils, depending on which language we're using and which is the buzzword at the time. Actually, what we've got is human experience. So within that, we have human experience, and we have human experience from different perspectives. And we have teachers who are experts in their subject knowledge and hopefully all the ologies. And we've got young people who are experts in being young people at that point in time. And because we are working with young people at that point in time in their lives, then we need to value that expertise, and we need to see how we can best draw it out and use that to shape what we're doing. So it doesn't matter that as adults we used to be experts in being teenagers or young children, because yes, we were at that point in time.
Yeah.
But if you keep your own lens on things, then you don't grow. So we have, again, it's different ages and stages. So for want of a better way of looking at things, if we just call it pupil voice, getting pupil voice from a young child is very different in many ways from getting it from adolescents, because they go through this sort of shift where actually we're not trying to get approval from our own peer group, those around us for the same age, like we were in primary school. What we don't want is that adult approval and acceptance. It becomes less of a thing. So how you actually get them in and get them talking is really fundamental, because the problem is when you've got people who are marginalised. So quite often in my experience, where it's the neurodevelopmental crew, so it's our autism, our ADHD, those that cohort sounds a little bit defined, but they're the ones that give me a buzz. They're the ones that give me the drive. I want to understand your world. So we need to want to understand their world, and we need to be talking in language that they use, by which I mean not necessarily what we say, but how we say it. Does it need to be a conversation? Does it need to be fill in a questionnaire? Does it need to be, what colour best expresses where you are today? And then how are we getting through that? Or, I like to use coaching cards, for example. So you've got abstract pictures and, where are you now? Which picture do you relate to? And then open up the conversation there. So we need to do more than form filling or having adult conversations.
my understanding from what you're saying is schools need to have different touch points. Yes. And actually deliberately build that into the school. What's the benefit to a school?
So just sort of going back slightly with that one, because what's going through my mind is that you typically have school councils, but you've got to look at who is it who's going forward for those school council meetings. Who's the representatives? Actually, who's not being represented? And that's
a big one.
Yeah, and it's actually, that goes back even into that lesson or form time kind of thing. So who's participating and who's not? Who are we assuming is participating and who is not?
Yes.
And again, I do quite a powerful exercise with adults when I'm doing training. So they're in their groups and we tell one particular adult, secretly, you are not to talk in this activity. And there's a discussion around a central question, whatever it might be. And at the end, we get feedback about it and say, well, who in your group took part? And we did this yesterday. And each group said that everybody took part. And then one person in one group went, well, actually, Sarah, for want of a different name, Sarah didn't. Yeah. And there she goes, because we have the assumption that we have worked as a group. But actually, when we pick up details, one person's voice wasn't heard. One person wasn't able to contribute their ideas. And actually, the whole group missed out on that. And then we also had that person who had been told they can't contribute, because that's our condition, felt very frustrated because they wanted to contribute. So we have to step back and actually really move away from that assumption and look at those details.
Yeah, but people might be watching and saying, yeah, that's all well and good. We don't see why that's such a big deal. Is it a big deal?
It is a big deal. Definitely a big deal. Because when we are looking at who's on our school leadership teams, when we're looking at peer group dynamics, there's insiders, outsiders. There are people who are assumed or credited for having expertise because it's been seen as a particular within a particular category. It's defined in a particular way. And then that becomes prioritized. And the problem is you then have a model based on that prioritized knowledge, that prioritized expertise. That doesn't represent the whole community. So for the children to experience belonging, which is central to how they form their identity, then their views matter.
So a school that includes everybody as much as they can, but actually makes a really good effort, what would they see from a school that doesn't?
So that sense of belonging, and I keep going back to that, is that you'll have children who feel more regulated, who are less sort of distracted by all that processing, all that emotional sort of conflict and feelings that are going on. They're able to clear the clutter or arrange the clutter in their minds, to be able to be part of that joint enterprise, that shared purpose of why we're here. So disruption levels, and I don't like that word disruption, because actually who is it disrupting? You're going to have more cooperative opportunities for learning and sharing ideas. And actually the big part of learning is coming through sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, challenging thoughts in a constructive way, in a learning way, not in a confrontational and oppositional way. So you're going to end up with better academic achievements, but more fundamentally, children who feel that they are able to contribute, that they have some autonomy within what can be very much an adult-led agenda, and going forward, that then helps equip them with the world outside, whether that be their leisure, whether it be recreation, whether it be employment, whether it be study. And ultimately, it protects their mental health.
So we're saying, you know what, belonging is not just something you do because you're part of a family at home and then you come to school and you just follow the rules. It's actually an extension when you come to school. So when you're at the school, you're part of that community, and the school will therefore have a sense of cohesion. And because the students feel like they belong, their nervous systems will be much more settled, they're much more likely to perform better, and the school is therefore able to enjoy better outcomes. So what we're saying here is it's actually in the best interest of everybody involved in education to give those children, every single one of them, an opportunity to have a say in what goes on.
Yes.
Okay.
In the way that works for them.
Yeah, in the way that works for them. And I also heard you somewhere there saying have conversations with the parents. So bring the family into the school environment. And I bet there is lots of different ways in which you would suggest this is done. We usually have an opportunity to help the listeners and everybody that's tuning in. We call that the one big change. From your opinion, when it comes to inclusion, what would be a one big change message that you would like to leave from our conversation today?
It would be keep the child at the centre of everything, because the child experiences one life. It's adults that have separate sections and services and gaps. So keep the child at the centre of everything that you do, because their voice matters, they matter.
Yeah.
And if we do that, and what we're able to then do is support and create the conditions that of belonging for them, and that's the crucial bit going forward.
Fantastic. So this all came about because of a red t-shirt, in a conversation with a red t-shirt.
Yeah.
So I love it. So just remember, children tend to see the world in black and white. We all see it in different nuances because we have learned to appreciate that life can exist in a few grey areas. Thank you so much for joining us and to help us understand the journey of a child through the day, how that can change how we see the children, and why it's ever so important, even 30 years later from when you started teaching to today, that one thread still remains. The child is the center. A lot of changes can happen, but the child always should be at the center of everything that we're doing. Thank you so much. So now we're going to go into the next section where we get to know you as you, Angela. Just Angela, not Dr. Angela, not Angela the teacher, the consultant, Angela, changing the world, but Angela as Angela. And for this, we're going to go through our rapid fire section. So we asked you just 5 questions. Very approachable day-to-day questions, and there's only one rule in my kitchen when it comes to answering these questions: no thinking. First thing that comes to mind, you got to say it. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, brilliant. So the first question, very difficult question: tea, coffee, or something stronger? What's your go-to?
Coffee, because I'm crap at making tea.
It's a kettle, you put water, you turn the water on and you pour it. How can you?
No, but there's a bag involved, and sometimes if it's not in there long enough, or it's in there for too long, it's a multi-stage process. Doesn't fit with my ADHD brain, It's in and it's out.
Processes. Love it. Coffee, my go-to as well. So yeah. Though there is sometimes where, like at the end of the day, cup of tea, green tea or something, sometimes is also quite a lovely thing. Okay, so the next question then is a book that you would recommend.
Okay, so it's called I Want My Hat Back by John Klassen. Okay, it's a children's book, I have read many academic journals and all that kind of stuff, and different ways of doing education, etc., etc., etc. But actually, I want my hat back is about noticing things that are in plain sight, and actually, it's stepping back as the reader in this case that you can see it. The person involved in it, the characters in the book, don't see it. So it's a really good, just way of going, even if you're in the thick of things, you need to stand back and take stock. Yeah, and I love it. It's got a bit of a dark ending to it, but
yeah, that's a powerful message. And I think you said something before as well about that. It's like sometimes you don't even need to solve that thing right there. So it's
no,
just about stepping back. Yeah. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
absolutely.
Yeah. The next one is a moment in time that changed everything for you.
So not just the red t-shirt moment.
No, you talked about that one. You can bring
Yeah,
it back if that was the moment.
no, actually, it was the experience of working in the pupil referral unit and Gypsy Traveller education, because it gave me a massive different perspective of other people's lives, cultures. I used to go into the vans actually on the local traveller site and teach in there, and it's wonderful. It was really good, but it made me actually really appreciate there's not just one way of being. There's not just one way of doing things, and actually, it made me appreciate and realize that you have to be creative. So you have to think outside the box, and you actually really have to work on relationships, because that is fundamental to everything. And when you're working with families, young people who are going through many different things, or they have just a different background, you cannot, and it is not right, to put yourself on top of that. You've got to understand that. You've got to work with them, and it's really interesting finding out about people.
Yeah, so you got to sit side by side, not in front of them or about them. I love that. Yeah. Okay, and this one, we always get like different interesting things from this one. What is it about you or about something around you that would surprise us to know?
I've got central heterochromia.
You have what?
Central heterochromia. It basically means that my eyes are green with a hazel circle around it. So they can, in some lights, look green and some lights look hazel. Apparently, my children will say it also depends on what my mood is like.
So does it go more hazel when you're angry and the kids know, leave the room?
Yeah.
Her eyes just went hazel.
Yeah.
Escape. Okay, then the last one, and I really love this one. If this point of your life had a theme song, what would that theme song be?
Okay, so bearing in mind that I like to overanalyze things. I've got a doctorate, so that's my whole thing. I can't even go shopping because there's too much to choose from. So
you'll be writing a journal to go shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. So the theme song would be "Dancing in the Moonlight" by Top Loader.
Dancing in, is that the one?
Yeah. I'll leave you with the singing. Yeah, but it's free-spirited, it's uplifting, it's like connection and community, and that's like my real belief that people should be able to feel free to flourish and to have sort of that value, and that they are part of something wider. So that would be my my theme song. But in terms of soundtracks, I would say Safri Duo played alive the bongo song, and Darude Sandstorm, because actually that is what my mind does. So my ADHD, relatively sort of new diagnosis to me late on in my life, but it's the ups and downs, it's the energy, it's the stand back, it's the chaos, it's the determination, it's the drive, it's the passion, it's the fun, it's the life is for living.
I love it. Oh, I'm going to play this back and go and listen to the song. I think from now on, Perpetual, what we need to be doing is when we've got the music, we need to be playing the music so everybody is in there, and then you can get up and dance and then show us how to jiggy to it, boogie. Love it. Yeah, wow. I've really enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
today
me
we
too.
have moved, from your early life when you were, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm going to change the world, to when reality hit, when you were putting together all the ologies into becoming a teacher. But I just love the fact that throughout that journey, as you've mapped it out, all the things you've done, going from the school that you taught in Wales, and going then into a school with difficult challenges, and then going on to do your PhD. One thing has remained, and it's your enthusiasm and it's your spirit around education. So please keep that going, keep that smile going. Thank you so much for the message. Could you tell us, where can people connect with you? What project are you currently working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I formed a company called Vocation Services Limited. That actually came off the back of redundancy. One of those, life just drops you off the wave and then
Yeah.
you're sink, swim, drown, which way you're going,
What do I
shoreward
do?
or seaward. So
Yeah.
Vocation Services is specialist special educational needs and disabilities and inclusion consultancy, which is about assessing for needs. So we do individual children's needs across either all four broad areas. So we have a comprehensive way of looking at the child, because they're not just one aspect. They are cognition and learning, they are social, emotional, mental health, they are interaction and communication, and they are sensory physical. So we can look at those needs, we can look at the provision that's mapped to those needs, and we can look at what we want to achieve from those from that provision. Or we can do it on single strands if people have a particular area of concern and quite happy with everything else. So we do dyslexia assessments, for example, as well as our core ones around all four areas, so that we can work with parents to sort of better understand how they can support their child, with schools and with local authorities, because we do a fair bit of work in terms of advising on education, health and care plans, or our reports will go into them. Also, because I've done IPSI level 1, 2, 3 law training, I am doing more stuff around tribunals, either looking at EHCP drafts or looking at plans and actually finding where they could be better.
Yeah.
and making suggestions and supporting parents as a representative at tribunals. So it's assessments, it's consultancy, it's interventions, so do coaching work with children, it's quite a comprehensive service, actually, because that's what people need. They don't need a one-stop shop. They need that variety, and we work with people. So it's not, this is the only way we're going to do it. It's actually, if these ways that we've got aren't appropriate, we will find another way.
I love that. Always the children at the center, even in your work. And what you're doing is building your company around the child's world, to all the different touch points, you being able to connect all of them. Oh, I love it. And I just love your journey. I love your personality, and I can see it shining through your company as well. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We've stolen 5 more minutes from you, but it was so interesting. I didn't want to let you go.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Yvonne. It's been lovely.
Brilliant.
It's really well. It's just having coffee at your house, not tea.
Yes, it was coffee. I know it's 2 o'clock, and my Italian friends will be looking at us going like, "Who has coffee at 2 o'clock?" We're in the UK. We can have coffee whenever we choose to, so they can keep that one in Italy. We are having coffee at 2 o'clock, and we are enjoying it. We have enjoyed it. So for everybody who has joined us today, if this conversation mattered to you, subscribe to It Takes a Village. Share this episode with a teacher, parent, a governor, a policymaker, special education needs, inclusion, and anything that deals with the whole child, and bringing a culture where the children feel like they belong. Dr. Angela is the person that you need to go to. And for anybody else who's listening, remember we just launched our One Big Change Expert Program in July. We're so excited to be helping a group of experts take their expertise into school and work with them throughout the year so that they embed best practice in a variety of schools. Because we know there's some schools who have got things right, but they just haven't been able to do it together. So we're creating a community around that. And until next time, remember, it takes a village to bring up a child. Thank you so much, and bye for now.